Banking in Fredericktown, Ohio, from the Dan Struble and Son Bank to the dedication of the new First Knox National Bank facility in 1968. Dan Struble was born in Sussex County, New Jersey in 1828. He came with his parents to Berlin Township, Knox County in 1832. His father, John Struble, began in the milling business and later became a merchant. His store was located where the KFP building now stands. Dan worked in his father's store for several years, finally acquiring the business. He moved it to the southwest corner of Main and First Streets. In those days, gold coin was a medium of exchange, and his customers asked him to keep money for him quite frequently, which led to the opening of the Dan Struble Bank in 1870. In 1900, his son Ralph entered the business, changing the name to Dan Struble and Son Bankers. Dan Struble died September the 18th, 1912, leaving his son to continue operating the bank until May 13th, 1929. Ralph Struble was a very capable businessman and contributed substantially towards the development of a sound community bank. After the death of Ralph Struble in 1929, the bank was incorporated under the laws of Ohio and was operated as a state bank until its merger with the First Knox National Bank of Mount Vernon, Ohio on June 28, 1954. According to the available records, the bank presidents from the beginning, or the managers, were Dan Struble, Ralph Struble, Charlie Ackerman, Jones Ackerman, Wendell McCoy, and David Carter. This was up to the dedication of the new First Knox National facility in 1968. Some of the people is, you see Gene Grant. He was the assistant manager of the bank, and that's David Carter, the manager, myself. This is the bank that we moved into temporarily while our new building was being constructed up on the corner of Main and East College Street, and quite a cold building. That place was awful cold and not real handy, but it worked out pretty well for the period of time that it took to build the new one. It was quite a chore moving. We closed at noon on Saturday and moved everything in, set up for business, and opened on Monday morning. And again, that was quite a chore. But the new building made it all worthwhile. This is Carolyn Doubt, one of our tellers. Belmont Johnson, the very capable custodian. And that's Gene Grant closing the vault door at the end of the day, and Bill Beheeler coming out of the men's room. You had to go through the manager's office to get there. That's Arlene Jones, the secretary. Bob Page, Bill Williams, Bill Beheeler again, Nancy Klein balancing out at the end of the day, Eugene Grant with the customer. This is the front of the building that is going to be torn down, and this is the big crane swinging the ball, beginning to knock the historical building down. It was quite a landmark, but it was outdated and made way for a much nicer structure. The picture you see here is the old vault. Everything was torn down with a fair amount of ease, except that vault, and it was awful tough. You'll notice the big iron ball just bounces when it hits that thing. The small excavating company of Mount Vernon, Ohio, got the contract for the demolition of the old building, and some of their equipment was not any more than adequate to tear down such a structure, as you can tell. The hole in the ground that you see here is the basement for the new First Knox National Bank building. You'll note that we had a lot of sidewalk engineers that sat there every afternoon and watched the construction and maybe supervised a little bit. Bunch of good people. The contractor for this new structure was R.A. Berg Company, construction company out of Mount Vernon, Ohio. The job superintendent was Gene Welsh out of Fredericktown, Ohio, and giving the photographer the nod. Very capable person, did a fine job. We tried to make a week by week, sometimes day by day record of this on this old 8mm film to show the progress. Quality's not all that good, but it's the only thing we had at the time. I believe those are the only moving pictures that was made of the new construction. You can see that the progress is moving right along and soon be ready for the dedication. The dedication took place on January the 20th of 1968. Very cold winter day, a lot of snow on the ground and a big crowd, very nice turnout. On the left is myself, David Carter, and in the center was Larry Gagner. That's Bill Stroud in the black coat in the center, Bob Gregg on the right. Bill Stroud is the president of First Knox National, and that's Robert Mielik, the mayor, cutting the ribbon. Long line there waiting to get inside to view the new structure. That's Charlie Fink there in the white hair. Charlie had the drugstore in town, the very first customer into the new building. Along with him is Bob Gregg, the director, and that's my mom and dad, Lester and Irene Carter, and myself in the background. Long line, long cold line. This is the interior. Didn't show up real well. Those fluorescent lights didn't help our filming too much. But again, it gives you an idea of what it looks like. Our very first customer was Elizabeth Dove Todd on her horse at the drive-up window making a deposit. That's something quite unusual and maybe hasn't been done since. On the left is Chris Blackburn and his granddad Ed Studer and myself, Jay Carter, on the right. Young Blackburn made the first deposit inside the bank, and you can see he's rather proud of it and fascinated by the figures he sees in that passbook. This is a picture of the old Dan Struble Bank showing the elk heads and moose heads, followed by, from the same angle, pictures after we had remodeled it in mid-1950s. Made quite a difference. This is these next couple pictures is the staff of the First Knox National Bank at the time of the dedication. This is the only other bank that we know of that was in Fredericktown, the old National Bank up on the corner, southeast corner of Main and College Street. This is the welcome address is given by William A. Stroud, the president of the First Knox National Bank, at the dedication. This is the last picture of the old Dan Struble Bank before it was destroyed to make way for this new First Knox National Bank facility.